Well, today was meant to be an episode of my RB Leipzig career mode, but unfortunately, Origin doesn't seem to like me today. If you don't know, PC version of FIFA 20 uses EA's launcher Origin, and it's absolute trash. Please don't ever buy a game on Origin unless you have to. It's shocking. So to replace that video today, while I try and fix it for tomorrow, we are going to be doing and I need to stress, my opinion of the Arsenal team of the decade. I'm going to go ahead and put in my opinion, again, I must stress it because I know a lot of people find these videos frustrating to watch because they disagree. You can disagree. Hey, you can go ahead and put yours in the comments below. What is your 11 of the decade? But this is my opinion. I'm going to put a player in each position that I think deserves to be in my top 11 players of the decade. And then also I will throw in some names that just missed out. So that's what I'm going to be doing right now. Now, let me go ahead and say this. I thought this video would be easy. I could picture my 11 in my head. And then I realized it's actually not easy at all. It's going to be very difficult to pick my first 11 with all of these names. So I've got them written down all down below. I'll make sure I put up the team as I'm building it on screen so you guys can follow along with me. But of course, we're going to start off with the goalkeeper, and this was straight away a really tough decision because there's one or two that I've quite liked, and I think had we kept Chesney, maybe he would be in this list as well. I think we sold him way too prematurely. I think he's gone on to do great things for Juventus, but quite honestly, and I know a lot of people are going to think this is just bias, but because of how good he's been since he's joined, Leno goes in as my best goalkeeper of the decade. I honestly and truly believe he is the best keeper we've had since David Seaman. I actually believe that, and maybe better than Lehmann as well. But from 2010 to 2000 and now, I can't think of a goalkeeper that's consistently been as good as Bernd Leno. So I think it's only fair that he goes into the team. Okay, now moving on to the right back position, which is also very tough. I think there's two names. You've got Bellerin and you've got Sagna. Now, Sagna went to Man City. That is a little bit distasteful considering how many Arsenal players ended up at Man City. But do you know what? I don't blame him because he was a very good player for us and we weren't winning anything. I think we won an FA Cup with him and that might be just about it. Bellerin, however, I would say hasn't really hit the potential that we all thought he would have by now. He has been inconsistent as well. So I'm quite tempted to put Sagna in this team just because of right now, I would say he was a better and an all-round, well, just a better defender and a better player going forward in some cases as well. So yeah, I think I'm going to throw in Sagna and Bellerin comes in close second. Now over to the two centre-back options. Very difficult, mainly because we haven't really had any superb centre-backs in the last decade. There are literally three names I can think of. Vermaelen, Koscielny, and Mertesacker. That's it. Imagine going from Tony Adams, Sol Campbell, and all these greats to these guys. I mean, to be fair, Koscielny goes in my team because of how good he has been when he was at the club. He was at the club for so long as well. I hate how he left. Surprisingly, that's not going to be the first and last time. Actually, I already mentioned it was Sagna, but I'm going to talk about that throughout this video. A lot of our best players have always left, distastefully as well. But the way that Koscielny left was a real shame. But you've got to be honest. He was consistently our best centre defender for ages. Really good centre back. Honestly, I really rated him. So I think he goes in as the left-sided centre back. And next to him, I'm going to put Mertesacker. Mertesacker was a clever defender. He relied on his brain more than anything else because, of course, physically, he couldn't really run very fast, that's for sure. But he was an absolute giant for us. And the biggest reason of all was his character, his personality. He was huge in the changing room. I've heard he was quite literally the captain when he wasn't the captain. He just got on with everyone. He took control of fining players as well. If players were late to training, you had to talk to Mertesacker, not even the boss, you know? I love Mertesacker for that. And that is a quality that not many players have these days. So for me, he won trophies with us. He was consistent with us. And I think he deserves a spot next to Koscielny. So those are the two defenders I'm going to go with. And then over to left back. There's only one left back I can really think of, and that is going to be Monreal. I think we miss him. I really do. Monreal wasn't a top world-class player, no doubt, but hardworking, loyal, and just, again, consistent. He was one of our best defenders a couple of seasons ago, and we could really do with Monreal right now. We are without a left-back. They're all injured. We're using Saka at the moment, but I was a big fan of Monreal. There were games where he came up with really important goals sometimes, and also got those crosses in for some headers. And you know what? I just think in the last 10 years or so, I can't think of anyone better than Monreal at that left-back position. I think, though, Tierney will become one of our true great left-backs if we give him time, but Monreal gets in this team. Oh, now it gets really tough. Centre midfielders. We're going to put 2 in there. I think I have to put Ramsey in there. Ramsey goes in at central midfield, even though you could get away with putting him as an attacking midfielder. But for me, in this setup, he's going to sit in at that centre mid spot. And next to him is going to be the one and only, and one of my favourite players of all time, not just for Arsenal, but just in general, Santi Cazorla. These two players were integral to Arsenal for years, and Ramsey going to Juventus still hurts. It really does. And the way that Santi Cazorla ended his career at Arsenal, no fault of his own, of course, but he had some seriously awful injuries. You guys should read into it. Unless you're squeamish, don't read into it because it's quite nasty. I'll tell you one thing. He has a tattoo, or he had a tattoo, I think, of his daughter's name on his arm, but they had to take some skin from his arm and graft it to his ankle that he had surgery on, multiple surgeries on. So now that tattoo is completely ruined and it's on his ankle. It's all stretched, and how awful is that? But honestly, in his day, Santi Cazorla, I think, is the most technically gifted player I've ever watched. And I mean that. And I've watched Zidane, I've watched Ronaldinho, of course, Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo. But honestly, in terms of a player that's two-footed, that can turn either way on a sixpence, that can score free kicks, do great corners, and he has everything. The only thing he didn't have was height. Santi Cazorla goes down, I think, in this team as one of the very best. So Cazorla and Ramsey are my central midfielders. And just ahead of them, this is a really tough one because, again, 2 names come to mind. You've got Mesut Ozil and you've got Rosicky. Now, Mesut Ozil is definitely more recent because, of course, Rosicky was playing at the start of this decade. He was coming towards the end of his career. I think it was around 2012, 2013. So it might be unfair to put Rosicky in this position, seeing as Mesut has played more. But do you know what? Ozil has been far too inconsistent. He hasn't been as successful as he could have been at Arsenal. He's had great moments, but he's also had some terrible moments. And I think when I think back to Rosicky, when we were beating Tottenham 5-2 every time we played them, and we were still kind of challenging for the title, Rosicky was right up there for me. He was an incredible player, and he's now a rock star, playing guitar on stage across the world. I love the guy, and I think I'd put Rosicky in this team ahead of Mesut Ozil. I think ability-wise, Mesut Ozil is the better player, but in terms of performances for Arsenal, consistency and legacy and importance in the changing room, I would put Rosicky ahead of Mesut Ozil. That's just my opinion. A lot of people may agree with me, but Thomas Rosicky, I will never forget the guy. What a true legend of the club. So he goes in at cam. Let's do the left wing position next. I think that's considerably easier than the right side. I'm going to go with Alexis Sanchez because why would you not? This guy wasn't with us long enough. It's a real shame how it all ended and how his career has seemingly just gone straight downhill since that move to Manchester United. He's now at Inter Milan, injured, I believe. In terms of impact player, I don't think I've seen anyone as good as Sanchez since maybe Thierry Henry, quite honestly. This guy, we relied on him to win us games on his own. And on that left side, I thought that's where he was his best. We played him on the right, we played him up front, we played him behind the striker. But on that left wing, when he was cutting in on that right foot, I will always remember, that FA Cup game goal against, was it Aston Villa? It was just... It might have been against Hull, actually. I can't remember. We've had so many great goals from Alexis Sanchez, but One of them when he banged it in from like 50 yards out. It was ridiculous. I was in a pub when that happened and everyone just went crazy. Alexis Sanchez, you can't tell me otherwise, was one of the best players we've ever had at the club. And it's just a shame it didn't last longer and there were some attitude issues towards the end. But of course, he gets in the team of the decade. He scored a lot of vital goals for us and I loved the guy. I really did. I really loved him. He has to. There's no one else. Now, onto the right side. There's only one I can think of, and it's crazy, but Theo Walcott. Who else can play on that right wing in this team of the decade other than Walcott? It's too soon for Pepe. Give him a few years, maybe 3 years' time, and he might be as good as Theo Walcott was when Theo was a lot younger. But Theo never peaked. He never reached his full potential. Injuries, of course, never helped, but I think it was confidence and it was a lack of a final product. He was great at dribbling with the ball. Of course, his running was incredible. And when we first signed him in the first few seasons, I genuinely thought we've got the new number 14. He's incredible, right? It never really worked out, but he was with us for so long. He did score plenty of goals. He was a vital part of our team for many, many seasons. Towards the end of his career, yes, he wasn't good enough and eventually we sold him to Everton. It is what it is. But Theo Walcott is, I think, above anyone else on that right side. He has to be in my team of the decade. Now, this one might upset some people because we've got 3 names that I see as our best strikers. And I think you've got to really, really think hard about not just the goals scored, but what they've given to the team, what they've given to the club. And I think I have to go with Aubameyang. I really do. We are currently in the hardest period we've ever been in, the toughest period ever. Without Aubameyang, we would be in the relegation zone, and I'm not even exaggerating. I think it honestly comes down to the importance of having Aubameyang in this team right now compared to the other 2 names I've got, which are Olivier Giroud and Robin van Persie, who ditched us for Manchester United and won them the league for 20 million bloody quid. Imagine that, you bought a striker and won the league because of it. But that has to go down as a thing for Man United, not for Arsenal. He had 2, maybe 3 very good seasons for us, 1 superb season, and he went. And Giroud just isn't as prolific as Aubameyang, even though Giroud is more of a team player. Was he more consistent? I don't think he was more consistent either. I think Aubameyang is the name that goes down on the team for me. We've got a really strong 11 and the bench, I guess, would be Bellerin, Van Persie, Vermaelen, Giroud and Ozil. In the first team, we would have Leno, Mertesacker, Koscielny, Sanya, Monreal, Cazorla, Ramsey, Rosicky, Walcott, Sanchez, and Aubameyang. That is going to be my Arsenal team of the decade, and we play tomorrow, so I will be really excited to see how he gets on against Chelsea. Mikel Arteta's first game at home. I'm actually rooting for a win here. I feel like something's going to click in place, or we're going to get smashed. But watch out for that. And the RB Leipzig career mode will be back up on Monday, provided that I can get Origin to work. That would be really nice.